Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to continue the nutrient description series and we are going to talk about hydrosoluble vitamins. In the last video we discussed the fat soluble and today we're going to view the hydrosoluble vitamins. Well, the concept of vitamins, I already discussed this in the last video, but it's simply the fact that two or more molecules can have the same vitamin functionality. Then the absorption, their solubility makes them enter the enterocyte very easily through facilitated diffusion, and then they can go to the liver straightforward, passing through the portal and hepatic circulation. Their elimination is very fast through the urine because they are hydrosoluble. They do not accumulate except the B9 and the B12, and the deficiency is more common due to the fast elimination. They are responsible for the coenzymes and the metabolism, and then cell proliferation and tissue turnover is due to vitamin B9 and B12. Let's begin with vitamin B1 or thiamine. We have two forms of vitamin B1. They are absorbable free thiamine, we can find in vegetables, or the thiamine pyrophosphate in animals. If you remember, the thiamine pyrophosphate is part of the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex I discussed in the video of the transition step from pyruvate to acetyl-CoA in the metabolism series of videos. This vitamin is unstable to heat, to alkaline pH, to leaching, and to thiaminases, of course. The metabolism on absorption is this one. From the thiamine pyrophosphate in animals, we have the phosphatases that create the free thiamine. Free thiamine is absorbable and is absorbed through active transportation mainly, but when we have high amounts, facilitated diffusion also plays. Then they get inside the enterocyte, they get into the blood and then into the liver, where there is the metabolization. The thing is that if there is low folate, which is vitamin B9, there is also low absorption of vitamin B1 thiamine. As I said earlier, it's involved in the pyruvate to acetyl-CoA and in the Krebs cycle in the alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase enzyme. The RDA says 1.1 to 1.2 milligrams a day. The deficiency of this vitamin creates the beriberi disease. That includes digestive and nervous symptoms and circulatory problems and the Wernicke-Korsakoff. The Wernicke-Korsakoff is an encephalopathy due to alcoholism. The sources of vitamin B1 in animals, we find it in pork, liver, oily fishes, egg yolk, and milk. In vegetables, we find it in whole grains, nuts, and legumes. Vitamin 2 or riboflavin is associated with coenzyme flavin mononucleotide, FAD, and AMP. Flavin mononucleotide is part of the electron transport chain, and FAD and AMP are involved in the metabolism as well. Phosphatases free the riboflavin, and the riboflavin is absorbed by active transportation. The exact same thing that happens here. Active transportation gets in the blood and the blood goes to the liver. In the liver, FAD and flavin mononucleotide are created to then be sent to the tissues. Excess of vitamin B2, riboflavin, is eliminated in urine and bile through the feces. The RDA is 1.5 milligrams a day, and the deficiency creates stomatitis, dry lips, the magenta tongue, itching, and corneal aging. Food sources are similar to B1, and we have to highlight the water-soluble fraction of the milk. Vitamin B3 or niacin, nicotinic acid, and nicotinamide create NAD positive and NADPH. Nicotine adenine dinucleotide phosphate. That's what NAD and ADP stands for. And the endogenous synthesis through the tryptophan, because if we consume tryptophan, we can create niacin, because 60 milligrams of tryptophan give us 1 milligram of niacin. The RDA says from 14 to 16 milligrams a day. The deficiency of this vitamin creates the pelarg, which is diarrhea, dermatitis, and dementia, the 3D diseases. And this was very common in America, since in corn there is a lot of vitamin B3, but the B3 is not bioavailable because there is an anti-nutrient in corn that will block its absorption. So people will actually get corn as the main cereal source, main carbohydrate source, and they will get deficiency of vitamin B3, and they develop the pelarg in America. Toxicity of this vitamin is when using statins, because they create an histamine production and liver damage. But if you are not using statins, you are fine. It's very difficult to get a toxicity since it is an hydrosoluble vitamin. We can find this vitamin in animal as a nicotinamide and tryptophan, in meat, fish, milk, and egg yolk, and in vegetables as nicotinic acid, in bran, yeast, soybean, and nuts. I have to mention this is a stable vitamin and only leaching losses we have here. Then vitamin B5 or pantothenic acid. This is a CoA precursor. Basically, the pantothenic acid is the pentoic acid and beta-alanine, amino acid. And then the CoA from the food is converted into B5, the pantothenic acid, and is absorbed by active transportation or facilitated diffusion, and then it gets in the blood. Then it's sent to metabolically active organs, such as the muscle, the brain, the heart. And then the renal excretion through urine is the common way to get rid of it. Deficiency of this vitamin is not common because it's also bound to other B vitamins, and also because pantothen means everywhere. So you can find it almost in all foods, which we're going to see next. The toxicity is rare, and it may cause diarrhea if you lack this vitamin, but again, it's very rare. Animal sources, liver and egg yolk mainly, and vegetable sources, whole grains and yeast. But again, as it's bound to other B vitamins, you can look at the other vitamin sources and you will find a little bit of pantothenic acid as well. We continue, we have vitamin B6 or pyridoxine. It has 6 vitamins, the pyridoxine, pyridoxal, and pyridoxamine, and then the pyridoxine phosphate, pyridoxal phosphate, and pyridoxamine phosphate. So in reality they are free and they have their phosphate form or not. The pyridoxal phosphate is the active form of this vitamin. This vitamin is involved in hepatic transaminations, and we have the pyridoxal phosphate, which is converted into pyridoxamine phosphate, and that leads to the conversion from glutamate to alpha-ketoglutarate, and also the conversion from oxaloacetate into aspartate. This vitamin is involved in all these functions. Do you remember the glycogen phosphorylase from the video of the glycogen metabolism? The one we use for the glycogenolysis? Well, this vitamin is bind to that enzyme. Then it's an hormonal modulator because it lowers cortisol, and it helps the body to synthesize the vitamin B3, the niacin, and the cysteine, the collagen, and neurotransmitters. From the jejunum, we absorb the vitamin via active transportation. They enter the enterocytes, and if there is vitamin B6 as free, like pyridoxal, only pyridoxal, we can go to the blood. But if we have pyridoxal phosphate, then it will stay into the enterocytes as a reservoir. Once in the blood, it's transported via erythrocytes and albumins. It binds to those, and then it gets into the liver, and the pyridoxal phosphate is created, and then it goes to the muscle. Why the muscle? Because we said it's involved in glycogen phosphorylase, which is mainly in the muscle for creating energy. The deficiency is very rare and it's a non-toxic vitamin. The sources from animals, liver and organs, and the egg yolk. Vegetable sources, whole grains and banana. And then we have the biotin. The biotin has an uridyl ring plus a tetrahydrothiophene ring and a valerianic acid. Vitamin is also called vitamin B8 or B7 depending on the literature. Part of carboxylases enzymes. Is part of the acetyl-CoA carboxylase, pyruvate carboxylase, propionyl-CoA carboxylase. All these enzymes, I talked about them in my metabolism series of videos. Biotin gets converted into biotidinyl oligopeptides, and then the microbiota creates also free biotin. So free biotin and biotidinyl oligopeptides are absorbed via active transportation and facilitated diffusion into the enterocytes that will enter the bloodstream and then go to the liver. The deficiency of this vitamin is rare because we have once again synthesis in the microbiota, and the only way we can get deficiency is by eating an excess of raw egg white or alcoholism. There are no specific symptoms of deficiency of this vitamin. Maybe glottis and anorexia, metabolic disorders, skin problems, and maybe nervous system, but not very specific symptoms again. Animal sources, well, liver, organs and egg yolk. And vegetable sources, whole grains, yeasts and nuts. So these were the metabolic vitamins. And here we have the two vitamins involved in cell proliferation and tissue turnover. We have the vitamin B9 or folate. It's a pteridine plus a phosphoaminobenzoic acid and a glutamic acid. And it's often bound to other glutamates. This is a glutamate. And they create polyglutamates. And the most important of them is the tetrahydrofolate. So we have the polyglutamates, and which are bound to proteins. And the microbiota also creates monoglutamates. These are absorbed by active transportation and they got inside the bloodstream and then they go to the liver. In the liver, the tetrahydrofolate is created and then it can go to the tissues. And then the elimination is via the urine or the enterohepatic cycle in the feces through the bile. The absorption is 50 to 60% in food and 80 to 90% as a drug. The RDA says we need 400 milligrams a day, and the deficiency is common due to various factors, such as malabsorption, low quantities in our diet, maybe we have medication that block the absorption of this vitamin, and the toxicity is not really relevant and is not even frequent. Symptoms of the deficiency, the megaloblastic anemia, they both cause anemia. This is the megaloblastic anemia, malabsorption and diarrhea, and nervous disorders and skin disorders. The sources, we have the liver, the kidneys, the organs, and dairy. And vegetables, we have leafy greens, the legumes, yeasts, and nuts. Moving on to the vitamin B12 or cyanocobalamin. This is a tetrapyrrole nucleotide with cobalt 3 positive and creates the myelin shapes of neurons. This is very important. Enzymes, cofactor, such as methionine synthase. Methionine synthase is the conversion of homocysteine to methionine, from one amino acid to another. And vitamin B12 acts as a cofactor. We find vitamin B12 bound to proteins which we need to free for the absorption. So free B12. The vitamin B12 gets bound to the intrinsic factor from the stomach, because without intrinsic factor the vitamin B12 cannot be absorbed, and then it goes to the blood, going through the enterocytes, of course. We also have small amounts of microbiota production of vitamin B12, but they are not significant. From the blood it goes to the liver, and in the liver the vitamin B12 is then bound to the proteins again, and is eliminated through the enterohepatic cycle. The RDI says 2.4 micrograms a day, so it's very, very low, but we still need it. And it's a common deficiency, especially in vegetarians, in elderly people, and in hypochlorites. The deficiency causes microlytic and pernicious anemia, which is very dangerous, and digestive disorders and neuropathies, such as bone marrow degeneration, anorexia, malabsorption, and even worse, Alzheimer's and demyelination. Demyelination is the stage previous to multiple sclerosis. That's an autoimmune disease. It's very important, this vitamin. The sources are only animal, and we find a lot of vitamin B12 in the liver, because the liver is a storage for vitamin B12 bind to proteins, and kidneys, egg yolk, meat, oil fishes, milk, and fermented cheeses. So I have to say that also vitamin B9 is stored in the liver. And then as last hydrosoluble vitamin, we have vitamin C, or ascorbic acid. This is very, very common, very popular vitamin. We all know this one. It has two vitamins, the ascorbic acid and the hydroscorbic acid. It is essential in humans. Why? Because we lack an enzyme for this synthesis. So the ascorbic acid is absorbed via active transportation and facilitated diffusion. It gets into the blood, and then from the blood it goes to the organs and tissues, and then the metabolization is from ascorbic acid to dehydroascorbic acid. Then the dehydroascorbic acid is going to form the diketogulonic acid, and then this will split into oxalic and trionic acid, and eventually these two are going to get into the urine and eliminated. The functions of vitamin C, primarily antioxidant, we all know that. It's important also in iron absorption, immune response. It stops nitrosamine formation from nitrates, and is a coenzyme of hydroxylase enzyme for collagen, carnitine, and neurotransmitters. The RDA says 70 to 90 milligrams, so it's a pretty high amount a day. The deficiency causes the scurvy, the bleeding gums, the loss of teeth and collagen, depression, and immunosuppression. These are very common symptoms of pyrates. Toxicity is very low, as urinary excretion is good. And the sources, well, mainly vegetable, and we find high amounts in bell peppers and mango, a little bit less in citrus fruits, and then a little bit less in potatoes. But these are all the ratios from high amounts to moderate amounts. And this vitamin is not stable at all, because light can affect it, temperature, leaching, oxygen, and ascorbic oxidase enzyme. They all affect this vitamin, and they can oxidize it to ascorbic acid and metabolize it, as it says here, to oxalic and trionic acid, and lose eventually the vitamin. Okay, so that was it for the hydrosoluble vitamin. I hope you made it until the end. I know this video it was a little bit longer, but I hope you understood it well. These vitamins are very important for us, so share this video to your friends and family to let them know. I will appreciate if you like this video, if you subscribe, and let me know in the comments any doubts or suggestions. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one. Bye.